Kristen Delano, how are you?
I am fantastic.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Did I get your name right?
You got it right.
Okay.
Kristen Delano.
There you go. Listen, I have been looking forward to speaking with you for some time. Ever since I heard about your company from Senator Tammy Nichols, we were on a water tour actually, and going around looking at a bunch of things, both sitting in the back of the bus. And she was like, "Yeah, there's this company who's trying to get a hydrogen well out in Caldwell." I was like, "What?
Yeah.
They're getting a what?" And she was like, "Yeah, they're trying to get a well for hydrogen." I was like a water tap? And of course she was like, "Well, here, look, let me get you in contact." I finally get in contact with them. I get in contact with you through that. You are here to explain the company who is attempting to tap a hydrogen well in the Caldwell area for the purpose of energy production.
Correct.
God bless it. You have the mic. Go.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having me.
Of course.
And thank you for giving us the opportunity to really talk about what we're actually doing, because it's new, it's nascent, never been done before, high risk, high reward. So I don't know how much you know about natural hydrogen. I think it's probably...
I don't know anything. That's why I was like, What do you mean a hydrogen well? Like water?
Yeah. So it's probably the best place to start with what is it?
Great.
And then I can talk about Koloma and what we're doing here in Idaho. But natural hydrogen is not the hydrogen that we think about, right? When we think about hydrogen, we think about manufactured hydrogen.
Okay.
So manufactured hydrogen, although great and necessary, you lose energy in that process. You're splitting it off to make it usable. So you lose about 50 to 60% of the energy that you could use because of that process.
And may I ask, when we talk about manufactured hydrogen, I think BMW came up with like a hydrogen car. I remember reading an article about it years ago. And the criticism, I mean, I think in college at the time, because the criticism of it, I had one of my rowing coaches was actually a grad student studying, getting his PhD in electrical engineering. I think it was might have been mechanical. The point is, very bright guy.
Yeah.
He was like, well, look, the problem with the hydrogen car, it sounds really great, is you have an enormous amount of energy to get it down to this usable form, right? And if you're using energy to get this other energy source, he's like, you're just burning carbon in a different way. Like you're you're using the coal-fired power plants to produce this hydrogen that's like super cold, right? Or is that the idea? And I can't remember exactly. But the point is, that's what you're talking about, which is the hydrogen we think of is something that is delivered through a process that is very energy intensive.
Exactly. And expensive, right? So you've got to use energy to make energy, which brings the cost up.
And so we all pat ourselves on the back because we're like, oh, we're using this energy source that doesn't produce greenhouse gases. Except to get it to that state required an enormous amount of greenhouse gas consumption.
Incredibly energy intensive.
Gotcha.
Right?
Okay.
And not here to knock on any of the other energies. But natural hydrogen is just, you might hear it called geologic, but natural hydrogen is what the term is used internationally.
Okay.
So this is very, very different, which is why I'm so thrilled that you gave us the opportunity to come talk about it, because it's new, it's nascent, and just I didn't know about it 3 years ago. So, excuse me. So natural hydrogen, obviously the earth has produced it as long as the earth has been around. It's doing the work for us, which is so great. But go back into the history of oil and gas, right? They would find natural hydrogen within that makeup, and it almost was a nuance or annoying, because what they thought was it wasn't a primary energy source. It got in the way. They thought that the molecules were too small to stick together. They would dissipate. They wouldn't collect underground. So it was just dismissed. Science hadn't quite caught up, as you can imagine.
To what was actually going on.
100 years ago. Fast forward to 1987. In Mali, Africa, of all places, they were drilling for water in a water well, and this different substance came up. So, of course, they were like, okay, we need to figure out what this is.
And I'm sorry, was this a liquid or a form or a gaseous form?
Gaseous form.
Okay, so something started coming out there like, this isn't steam. This is something else.
Correct. It's not water, what they were looking for. It's not steam. Now, understand that natural hydrogen, there's seeps all over the world that naturally seeps. That's what you see under the ocean, on the floor, the little bubbles coming up. That's natural hydrogen naturally seeping from the earth.
Got it.
Starting in about 2012, as the word kind of spread and scientists started researching this, 2012, it kind of became, in Mali, Africa, a living laboratory. So folks from all over who study this type of science were there. And science flipped on its head. It was like, wait, there's a there. this actually does stick together. It does collect underground, and it's a primary energy source. So if you don't understand kind of what primary energy is, it means it can be used right away. There's no processing. So it's like wood or coal or any of those things. So when it comes out of the earth, we can put it to work right away.
Like methane.
Like, exactly.
Right. Like we have a methane capture mechanism at our landfill.
Yeah.
And, you know, like it's a little dirty, so they clean it up, but it, like you could light it on fire as well.
Right.
Gotcha.
Whereas though natural hydrogen is the cleanest energy source you're going to be able to find. The carbon intensity of it is negligible, if any. So that's what makes it so exciting and like such a new technology in the energy world.
Okay, back up to that.
Yeah.
So when you're saying the carbon portion of it, whatever that might be, I could take a hunk of wood, right, and throw that wood on a fire, and that will create energy. It'll create heat, right? But you're going to have, obviously, the result of that, which is, you know, smoke and emissions and things of that nature.
Correct.
And so what you're saying is when you, do you combust hydrogen? Like how do you convert it to power?
So you liquefy it.
Okay.
So what it would be is you find the well, and right on site you liquefy it and you truck it, or you put it in electrolyzers and you transfer it to where it needs to be used. So that's all done on site.
Okay, so the liquefaction would be a process of compression?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you take like whatever that gas is and you pump it into an area and you hyper compress that takes it out of a gaseous to a liquid form, and then you pump that liquid into like say a tanker,
right,
and the tanker takes it off to wherever. Once that liquid hydrogen arrives, do you combust it? Is it like you light it on fire? Like how do you convert it to energy?
Yeah, it just depends on, you know, what type of energy is needed. And so that'll kind of change based on the type of energy needed.
Gotcha. So when you say it's clean, whatever the process is at the end, once the tanker arrives with the liquid hydrogen, once it is used in whatever mechanism to actually convert into energy, it doesn't produce like the smokestack from the wood. It doesn't produce, you know, like methane exhaust. It produces just like, is it just water at that point?
That's what's so cool about this and why everyone thought it was unicorn and rainbows until they really dug into the science. And our chief technology officer, Dr. Tom Dara, who has studied this for 2 decades and actually created the world's preeminent lab on studying gaseous rocks. What it is water. And then 2 really great byproducts that we desperately need in the U.S. And one of them is incredibly important to Idaho. One being ammonia, and then helium, and then negligible, if any, methane or carbon, and then water. That's it. And so what's so great about that is, let's talk about, you know, ammonia. So ammonia is crucial to the creation of fertilizer, right? And being an agricultural state, you know, Idaho and other places we're operating. Right now, we are importing millions of tons of ammonia to create fertilizer from places like Canada, Trinidad, Tobago, previously the Ukraine prior to the conflict. And so as you can imagine, we are very dependent on geopolitical circumstances with cost of what it takes for us to produce fertilizer. So right now our farmers are paying a lot more than they would have been, right, pre kind of geopolitical issues. So if we're able to find natural hydrogen, grab the ammonia from it, and then put it to work creating domestic fertilizer, we can make it cleaner, we can make it domestic, and we can make it cheaper. I mean, that there is a game changer.
Like
100%.
The fact that we don't have to rely on anyone internationally.
Right.
There's a large discussion around critical minerals, obviously, as well. And like, this is a big thing, which is, look, if you don't have to ask anyone, and you don't have to like beg, borrow, and steal, then you have a much stronger position in the world as far as defense and economy.
Right. So if we can make that, you know, a handful million tons domestically, we can empower our farmers and our agricultural community, bring down the cost of food, but then also potentially become an exporter. Like how amazing would that be for Idaho to, you know, export that and potatoes, right? So it's a resource that is internationally needed, but domestically produced. We don't have to ask permission. We don't have to rely on geopolitical conflicts or worry about that fluctuation is just right there, huge.
Gotcha. So that's ammonia.
It's ammonia.
Helium is one that from an industrial standpoint, like we've been losing helium, and not just like when I worked at Applebee's and sucked on the helium balloons.
Right.
Like,
yeah, clowns are stressing everywhere, right?
Yeah, but helium has like absolutely vital industrial applications because only in a helium changer can you get close to absolute zero in temperature, right? Like that's the nature of it from a science standpoint.
Which my background comes from the Department of Defense when I worked in DC, right? And so U.S. national security depends a lot of it on helium, as does producing medical equipment. So we are at a shortage of that as well, which is important and comes at a premium. So now helium is a small piece of that, but it's an important piece of natural hydrogen. So you've got little water, very little carbon, ammonia, and helium. End of the day, primary energy resource.
Okay. And then with the water, so we have the ammonia, we have the helium, a teeny bit of methane, and then water comes out of it, and that's functional water. Here's a question for you. If you guys were going to bang it out of the park with this hydrogen well, how much of these things would you be producing on an annual basis? Is like, we'll get water, but it's only like 3 buckets full, or like, no, we'll get water and it's like 1 million gallons.
Yeah, that's a very good question. It won't be 1 million gallons,
Gotcha.
right? It's a very small percentage of the natural hydrogen. And we're looking for, when we're going and doing the testing, we're going after low hanging fruit. We're in the natural hydrogen business. But, this is new and nascent and still being studied. So lots to learn, lots of questions to still be answered. But every day, every week, every month, we're learning more and more and more. So TBD, but we'd love to circle back when we get there.
Okay. Some more technical questions, or not necessarily technical, but fundamental for the people of Caldwell. So like this technology in this energy mechanism, energy process exists in theory and kind of in practice. So we know what we can do with hydrogen, like the BMW car, right? That I read the article about. It's like, no. If we get this hydrogen, we can make energy out of it and we can do these things. The problem with manufactured hydrogen is obviously that it takes more energy than it delivers. You're essentially just taking energy and converting it into a hydrogen, well of energy and then using that. But you lose a lot of energy along the way.
And it's a high cost.
And if you have the energy or the hydrogen occurring naturally, you don't have to go through that energy transfer process. You just compress it down to water and then move it off and, use it. It's
base load. It's, reliable. It's,
it's great.
Every day of the year, every hour of the day. Right. It's, like a nozzle on a hose. It's there and it's usable.
So let's make the assumption all of that works. And we're like, great. From a nuts and bolts standpoint for the people of Caldwell in this area, like first off, where is the proposed well? Or is it, no, we have a lease that we're going to be prospecting on to find out if we can hit the well? Yeah.
So let me explain kind of the process of exploration. But first, back up a little more before that at why we're interested here. So the way natural hydrogen is produced and how the Earth has already done the work for us is under the Earth's core is a rock called mafic rock, but all it really is iron-rich rock. And it's 12% of the Earth's surface, of the Earth's crust. So it's abundant. So we're not necessarily even going after like small opportunities of the resource. It's everywhere. So when water hits that rock, either from, below the core or above the core, in the simple version, and I'm not a scientist, but it creates a natural rusting reaction. So water hits the iron-rich rock, creates this gas. It gets kind of trapped in almost like an ice cream bowl, you can imagine, underneath the crust with the seal, and captures that gas and creates a reservoir. So that's what we're looking for. We're looking for commercially viable or large enough reservoirs that we can actually make commercial.
Okay. Mafic rock?
Mafic, iron-rich.
Okay. No, but like putting this together. So what you're saying is, look, this mafic rock is abundant, roughly just over 10% of the Earth's crust.
Correct.
And what you need to have this reaction is a lot of water running underground. And as that water interacts with the mafic rock, you get natural hydrogen that likely gets trapped under the crust because it doesn't have a way to expel.
Exactly.
And it just so happens we're sitting in the Snake Plain Aquifer where there is an ungodly amount of water flowing directly underneath our feet. So presumably, if you can get somewhere where that aquifer has interacted with mafic rock, you will find hydrogen pockets.
Correct.
That's why you're looking here.
That's why we're looking here, right? And other places like here, right? So like, and when we talk about a reservoir, it's not like the kind we go kayaking on,
No,
right?
no.
It's like a sponge. Imagine a sponge, right? And then
Sure.
the gas kind of gets stuck in these little pockets. And so, yeah, anywhere that there's that type of rock is very, very interesting to us. And that's really where the science is kind of honing in on where we'd be able to find these type of reservoirs. So
this is wild.
yeah, it is wild.
Now, unlike geothermal needs essentially places where plates have come together and there's heat coming out, and that heat then interacts with these pockets of water.
Right.
Generally water, but like there are a whole bunch of different things. But unlike that, you guys don't need places where plates have come together. Like you don't need that heat coming out of the crust. You really just need an interaction of the rock and the water over a long enough period of time. And in an area that presumably has, sponge style kind of like lava tubes that could be filled up with hydrogen.
Right. Now, where it is advantageous to us, like similar to geothermal, is where the plates have moved, natural pockets then create, right? So like mid-continental rift, kind of we're friends and then not friends and then friends again. That kind of movement has created also some places where seeps may exist. So those two combinations of the rock,
a slight bit of movement, the rock, water,
all of those things. So there's lots of places around the U.S. and world, as you can imagine, that have those type of rifts that could be advantageous to finding this first commercially viable well.
So are you guys essentially exploring the entire ridge from like eastern Washington all the way down to California, where you have the plates coming together?
Well, I wish we were, but as you can imagine, exploration is
quite pricey.
Quite pricey, and this is new. And so we're very, very data, research, science, technology driven. So the process of exploration for us is we start with the USGS map. I don't know if you've taken a look at that, but the USGS has their own map of where hydrogen is. Now their map shows hydrogen where it exists. So it's,
That's the U.S. Geological Survey,
yes,
right? Okay.
USGS, yeah. And so we look at their map. Now their map is very promising, but we're looking at natural hydrogen that we can actually reach. So then we use Idaho. We've worked very closely with your geologists here at the state level. You all have your own maps that we kind of overlay over that. And then Koloma, we have a 20-year data advantage because of the work of Dr. Tondera over any country in the world, basically. So we take his work and overlay that, and then we find our area of interest, some being here in Idaho, and then we do geophysical surveys, which is basically a small little truck that drives by and kind of thumps the Earth's surface. We've got some nodes that we put into the ground, 8 to 12 inches. It's very minimal impact, if any. And it's basically an ultrasound of what lies under the Earth's surface. It's so cool.
This is like something straight out of Dune. When they have the thumpers, they're like, doom, doom,
yeah.
doom, doom.
But our thumpers aren't that loud, I promise.
And they're not bringing giant sandworms.
And they're not, no sandworms, not yet that we've found. No sandworms.
This truck goes along and essentially thumps and then listens. It's like, what's happening under there?
Exactly.
And then you find disparities in time and sound and returning and echoes, and you're like, hey man, there's something down there. Like there's either a vacancy down there or there's something, and we think it's about, say, like 7,000 feet under the ground.
Right.
And so you know how far to go, and about, like, you can get a broad image of what it is by thumping all around the area.
We can get a really, really solid hypothesis. Right. And that's what is so cool and about Koloma is that we have just the best team in the world. I mean, everybody that works for Koloma, we're passionate about doing good things, solving big problems that will make a difference. And so we've got Dr. Tondera, who is one of the preeminent scientists in this area. We've got Tim Chisholm, who is an explorationist, one of the best in the world. And then just every kind of geoscientist, engineer, a lot of them come from the oil and gas world. Because it's taking technology that already exists. So it's not a question of does technology for extraction exist? It's just, can we find this resource? But, we've got this great team who really knows the way to find these things if they exist. And so this is the new gold rush, right? So like we've been off to the races for about 4 years, and now we strongly, strongly feel it's not an if, it's a when. So we've started publicly. We've been in Iowa. We've been in Kansas. we're finding really great results. And so now we're expanding, and now we're in the great state of Idaho.
Dr. Tom Dara.
Yeah.
Is he local here?
No, he is. Was a tenured professor at Ohio State University. So I would love to have you come visit. We just opened
I'd love to.
Only lab in the world, right outside of OSU, Ohio State University in Columbus, that can do this type of work. We can do every part of the process of taking the exploration samples and bringing it to the lab and breaking it down and figuring out how much hydrogen, how much this, how much that exists in that rock. And if it's enough, it might be there. And so Dr. Tom Dara has really been leading the charge and ringing the bell that this could be a primary energy source, the first since nuclear. So this could be world-changing, but it's nuanced.
Yeah, no.
We're in the beginning stages.
I got you.
The risk versus reward is high.
Yeah, and by the way, we know the story of nuclear at this point, which is like, we've known about it since the 40s and 50s, but it has been surrounded in such a PR firm nightmare. You know what's interesting? I do a weekly nuclear series. There happens to be a gentleman who lives 10 minutes away from me who worked in Navy nuclear in the like when Fukushima got flooded, Japan called him.
Wow.
Right? Like he is a national treasure of energy intelligence and has worked in nuclear for like 60 years.
Yeah.
We went over the 3 Mile Island incident last week. That was the episode that published on Monday.
Okay.
And
I'll have to listen.
Dude, it is wild to understand what actually happened, not just from a technical standpoint. He does a very good job of explaining technically what happened, but from a misinformation standpoint in that 0 people were hurt.
Right.
0 people, like no one was hurt. No one was damaged. Nothing blew up. Nobody died. Yet 3 Mile Island is a name and an event that lives in infamy.
Infamy, yeah.
And has for decades.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait a minute, man. We've had more deaths and illnesses and problems from E. coli at Chipotle. Now, mind you, when this went down, I stopped eating so much Chipotle. That doesn't mean I stopped eating it completely. I didn't want Chipotle to go out of business.
Right.
Dude, they used to have the quesarito. Are you familiar with quesarito? Okay.
I have kids.
Okay.
And I've spent a lot of money on quesaritos in the past. So,
okay.
Yes.
Here's the problem. Quesaritos used to be no extra charge. So for those that don't know, like the biggest problem with a burrito out of any burrito operation is fundamentally the cheese. Because in what world do you want room temperature cheese on anything? You ever had a pizza with just shredded cheese on top, not melted? Nope. You'd never do that. You ever nobody wants, you ever have a cheeseburger where the cheese is not melted? No, you want it like dripping down the sides.
Sacrilegious.
Right. So what Chipotle used to do is you'd be like, hey, could I get like barbacoa or carnes or whatever? They're like, yeah, sure. I was like, hey, make it a quesarito. And they're like, okay. So they make a giant quesadilla, melt the cheese, open that bad boy back up. And the thing is like, it slowed down the line and it burnt the hell out of your hands. Cause like they had to open it. They were like burning it. Like,
worthwhile burns.
Dude, it was totally worthwhile. And then they'd make the burrito and you had every bite had this melted cheese pillow, like, right?
Are you hungry?
Dude, I am now.
Okay, I am now. Hungry.
And so I used to go there and be like, quesarito every time. And then they were like, it's $3.50 extra. I was like, what? How dare? Let me talk to someone. There, you are talking to someone.
Yeah.
I'm
the someone.
I'm the someone.
Yeah.
And literally, I was like, I had to stop getting them because I just objected to getting a $9 burrito and then increasing the cost like 40% when I turned it into a quesarito. And that was the death of the quesarito. It was very, very unfortunate. I had a point that I was bringing up with this, but I
really
lost it.
Resonated deeply for you.
Deeply. It was the 3 Mile Island thing.
Yeah. So
anyway.
And that's why I'm like so grateful to come on podcasts like yours. Because, lessons learned from other nuanced, new things coming to the communities, we're wanting to get ahead of that. Because, I come from a family of farmers that don't even have a stoplight in Missouri. And so if somebody were to come to my backyard or my uncle's backyard and start talking about exploration, as you can imagine, there's a million questions. So we are really trying to, and it's not it's not lost on me. I have the honor of being kind of the tip of the spear, as does Koloma as the furthest advanced company in this space, of not only lobbying for it, advocating for it, but I get to tell the story of what it is and what it isn't. And like that's a huge honor, but a huge responsibility. So that's why we're trying to get out early and often. And we really look at working with communities and states as a partnership. We want everybody to know what we're doing and why and how it works and the advantages to the community. And we want to be in lockstep. So just like you said, you know, the PR kind of nightmare of that. We want to get ahead of that and just be completely transparent. So we're telling the story before we're even before we're there, because we want to do it together.
Let me ask you something then.
Yeah.
I was speaking with, again, somebody from geothermal, Scott Nichols from Ormat, just last week. Great conversation, learned a ton about geothermal. Geothermal is treated as a mineral right.
Correct.
Okay, so if it would be the same as if a company like struck gold or they found, you know, some valuable mineral, right? And then the property owners around that area with whatever portion of that vein or whatever portion of that deposit, they would get, you know, royalties or something of that nature.
Correct.
When you're dealing with hydrogen, what is the mechanism, when you're talking about partnership and benefit, what is the mechanism so that the landowners and community benefits from the hydrogen?
Yeah, no, that's a great question.
Hydrogen well, that is.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So we work hand in hand with the private landowners, right? Like this is their choice, this is their land, it's not eminent domain, it's none of that. So we work with them individually on a lease. They get some upfront bonuses, right? Lease payments. Any losses that they have, we make up for that. And then anything, if they want a well on their property, an actual well, then they, you know, then get revenue from that. They get a percentage of revenue, very similar to oil and gas leasing. Now, if there's somebody next to them that decides not to lease to us, we're not taking those profits. We're not giving them to their neighbor. There's actually, and it depends state by state, right? Sure. Like what the laws and the statutes are in the book, which we follow religiously. That would be set into a different account based on who that landowner is. Sometimes we can't even find who they are. We've got to go back into records, back into the 1800s sometimes, and do the real due diligence. And then there's structures and statute in place through the state of where that money goes. But really the landowner, whoever that is, you know, they own those rights.
So the bottom line is you treat it like anything else. You go up to somebody, you're like, hey man, you got 1,000 acres. Yeah. And I think somewhere in this 1,000 acres, there's some hydrogen.
Correct.
So one, we would like to prospect. We need your permission and we're willing to compensate you for this.
Yep.
Two, if we find it, look, you got hydrogen under there. Now, we're not asking anything from you.
Yep.
We need about 100 acres. We're going to pay you for that.
Yeah.
We would like to lease this land to build equipment, to harvest this thing, get the well out. And by the way, not only are we going to lease and compensate you for the loss of production, but you will get essentially a royalty off of whatever comes out because this is your hydrogen, this is your land. We have to harvest it and we have to make money off of that. Obviously, we have to turn a profit, but it's also yours.
Exactly.
So here's your royalty check.
Yep, it's a business. We're business partners.
This is the fundamental aspect of Beverly Hillbillies, right? Like they found oil on their land, and then they like made it rich. And
you're aging us by bringing up Beverly Hillbillies.
I just remember, like, I never even saw one of the OG episodes, but like I remember seeing the. You remember when TV shows used to have like the intro where it would like show the, and now they just go right into the TV show. It there's no just shake my hand and say hello before you start talking.
No. Let's bring that back.
Yeah, let's bring it back. But that was the whole thing. Like somebody threw like a pick and like oil struck and then they're like, oh, we're rich. Yeah. So it's the same thing with hydrogen.
Yeah. But I want to back down just real quick with what, you said the 1,000 acres or whatever. Something we haven't quite covered yet that I think is really important for the community to understand is the other great thing about natural hydrogen is the land use. We're not talking hundreds. We're not talking thousands. We're talking 2 to 3 acres.
For a hydrogen well?
Yes.
Not just prospecting, but literally I live on an acre and a half. You want to come to my house
I've got 15 acres in Northern Virginia and I'm like, come, please, prospect, please. And so we're not, look, we're a Swiss Army knife and I'll get into end uses more so than ammonia, but the this is why it's like such a great answer across the board. So the land use is a handful of acres. The pad is an acre or two. The water usage would make very clear, like we're not tapping into water tables. We're not utilizing the water from that will cause your bill to go up. We truck it in, purchase it from municipalities, and the only water put to use is what we need for extraction. And then the CI score is super low. And then on the other side,
what's the CI score?
Carbon intensity.
Gotcha.
Sorry,
gotcha,
I'm
gotcha.
talking
No,
in
you're
alphabet
fine.
soup.
Listen, you're fine.
The carbon is super low. So just we're not, unlike solar or wind, right? We're not expansive land usage, especially in a state like Idaho where land is put to use in such a, important way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
When you talk about water utilization, there will always be the scars of the early fracking, right? Where people's water was, poisoned, and they, you have the notable instances of like, you had like 100 earthquakes in an hour or something. But it doesn't sound like you guys are doing, because you would need way more water than the municipalities. They're like, here's a truck. It's like, okay, if you're fracking, you don't need a truck. You need like a river of water.
Right. No fracking.
Yeah, right. So what is the mechanism by, like, what do you utilize the water for then?
The water really is just to keep the drill that's going down into the Earth's surface cool, because as you can imagine, it can get very hot.
But you're not injecting the water.
We're not injecting.
Oh,
there's no stimulation. There's no fracking. It's just keeping the integrity of the well tight.
Sure.
And then just making sure all the equipment stays nice and cool. So there's no fracking, and we're also not drilling horizontally. This is just like the standard play. We're going after a low-hanging fruit.
So you're almost analogous to just drilling like a domestic well.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
You're like, I'm just going straight down. I just need enough water to keep the drill bit cool, and we're going to go down like 5,000 feet instead of 500.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And the reason we have to go down so far is the interesting thing about natural hydrogen is if it's closer up on the surface, likelihood that it had, seeped already, but it's also really delicious for little tiny micro bugs. So it might get eaten up. So you go down kind of to the basement area where it would be trapped and not kind of utilized yet via natural forces.
That's wild.
It is super wild.
Now, naturally, like if you're creating this hydrogen, let's say everything continues on and you find willing and happy partners in Caldwell, and they're like, yep, look, I got 1,000 acres. You need 5, take 10 just in case.
I'll be generous.
To park your cars.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Start prospecting. You find that, you're not disturbing the rest of the community, right? You're like, no, we're just right over here.
Right.
Community, like I could tell you for sure, the county commissioners and city people would be like, okay, but what, like, how does this benefit us? Right. Are we going to get this electricity? Right. And I presume the answer is, and correct me if I'm wrong, like, look, we take this thing out and this thing goes to produce electricity and we're using it. I presume you would want to make a hydrogen generation plant, electrical generation plant close by the well source, right? You're not going to like ship it to Iowa or something, right?
Right. I mean, so natural hydrogen is best used in creating other things.
Gotcha.
And so co-location is going to be the best way to do it. So a fertilizer plant or something like that. We can't choose where the resources, but we also want to meet the needs of the community and what kind of energy resources does Idaho need. But other things that you can do with it, sustainable aviation fuel. Something really exciting that I think makes sense here at home in Idaho is cleaning up hard to abate sectors like cement and glass, but creating steel. It can help heat the necessary processes to create cleaner, cheaper domestic steel.
Because the heating mechanism, the smelting process requires heat.
So much heat.
So the idea is not, I had been envisioning, okay, you're bringing this out to create electricity, but power and energy are not like, this is not the same thing.
This is not.
Power and heat are a lot of different things. So it's like, I'm not using this to make energy. I'm using this for like a smelter, or I'm not using this for this energy. I'm using it to create like electrical watts. I'm using it over here to harvest like the joules essentially out of it for something else.
Correct. Yeah. So the best use of it is additive to other energy needs, right? Like a Swiss Army knife. It's kind of like a very cool toolbox. We're not going to be replacing oil and gas. Now you can plug it into the grid to kind of release the burden on that. Not the best use of it, but definitely maybe an initial use of it. But you're also talking, cargo shipping, long haul trucking, putting it into liquefying it and then taking it to a data center and plugging it directly into a data center, keeping that off the grid.
So then you have behind the fence,
correct,
inside the fence power,
right,
which they're talking about with the molten salt nuclear batteries. Right. Essentially, hey, data center, you guys need 500 megawatts. Mm-hmm. You make it your own. Now you can do that with a molten salt nuclear battery, or you could do it with a hydrogen battery or generator.
Right. Exactly.
Gotcha. So it's really there are so many varied products and processes that could utilize natural hydrogen.
Yeah.
And the trick is for you guys, these processes are not new. It's not like people didn't know about them. It's that the process of getting this functional liquefied hydrogen previously was it was cost prohibitive. But now you're like, no. Just turn the tap. And now we have this thing that used to cost a dump truck of money.
Right.
And now we're getting it out of the ground.
Right. So science has caught up. About 4 years ago, you've got lots of folks investing in it. We're completely venture capitally funded. We don't need tax money. It's going to be an industry, fingers crossed, it's going to be an industry that comes to fruition where it's going to be, can hold its own. That's wild. Very exciting. And cost wise, because it's liquefied, it's primary, it can answer all of these needs, kind of the all of the above approach, and be done here at home. It's going to be very affordable. I can't give you like a cost yet, right? Like the science is still there and it's so nuanced, but it's looking very promising for being an affordable energy source that can answer all these other issues. And then we can focus on, the oil and gas and the cars and the grids and everything local at home with other items.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. And again, whatever can be replaced that in its current iteration right now is using oil and gas and other electrical things. It's like whatever can be replaced with this added thing just takes that pressure off.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at this point then in this exploration, you guys are now in Idaho and talking to people about like, hey, look, man, this is the plan. This is the idea. This is the science behind it. This is what we're trying to do. These are our needs.
Right.
This is what we can offer. Is that tolerable, or is that a partnership that you would voluntarily engage in? Is the juice worth the squeeze? And that's essentially what you're doing in the Caldwell area, saying like, hey, look, we want to start using a little straw or a little thumper to start prospecting. And, first off, is that okay? And second, if we do find something, this is kind of what we would be looking at. So you're proposing the relationship, should it come to pass that it looks like it would work.
Exactly. We're proposing the relationship. We're meeting with folks. We're, talking to landowners. I've been fortunate enough to meet, with some of the governor's staff and legislators who are very excited about the prospect of this, all the way down to the community. And then we're working through the permitting process right now. So, there's laws on the books and statute on the book, and everything is laid out. And so we're just moving through that process as anybody else would.
Earlier this year, there was a proposed speed council that essentially brought everybody together within the state of Idaho. Are you guys benefiting from that, or is that a little too detailed for you?
It's a little too detailed, a little too early, but definitely keeping, our eyes on what that looks like.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Listen, I know I got here late because I thought we were meeting at the other studio, and I totally, delayed you because I was like, I'm running late, and I drove a half an hour and realized I was in the wrong location. What do we, and we don't have to solve the world's problems in this first conversation. Like I have a really big, broad, a broad understanding of what you're doing. Are we missing anything for this initial chat?
I just think that I just want folks to understand what this is, right? Like it's a primary energy source. We're not tapping into water tables. It's new. It's exciting. It could solve lots of problems. It could bring revenue. And how great would it be for Idaho to be the center of finding the first commercially viable well? But we want to make sure that we're open here and having these conversations, and that folks feel comfortable with what we're doing. Here's
a question for you.
Yeah.
Speaking of comfort, is there interaction or, problems with existing groundwater? Like say you start prospecting and you're like, hey man, drill right here. And you guys start drilling down and you go through, like an aquifer or like a water pocket. Is there any risk? Are you guys aware of any risk of like hydrogen contamination, or is that something that people need to worry about?
No, not at all. And we wouldn't drill there, right? Like
so you could tell, you're like, hey, there's something down there.
Yeah, you absolutely could tell. And like hydrogen is naturally occurring. So it's not a poisonous substance in that sense. But you also have to understand that there's a hydrogen industry that's been around for 40 years. So all of the safety standards and all of that stuff has been around for 30, 40 years. So this isn't necessarily new technology. And that's what's so cool about it is we're just going after a new resource, but all of the technology, safety is first, right? Like we want everybody to go home safe before we worry about finding the resources. So all those protocols are in place. We're just going after something new and cool that could actually solve some real world problems.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Awesome.
Yeah.
I really appreciate this. I've been looking forward to this for weeks and you absolutely delivered.
Well,
I did not
you.
I'm blown away. It's like we're living in the future.
We are living. I know it is the coolest, closest science experiment to solving real world problems, which could be a game changer. So, it's a real honor for me to be able to be in this seat right now, representing Koloma, but also talking about a new industry that could come to pass pretty quickly here.
Yeah, it'd be awesome. I'd love to come out to Ohio.
Please.
I'd love to come out and talk to industry people and scientists and understand it better. Because this is, again, it's not like I'm some energy expert, but I've been talking to a lot of people about energy, the geothermal and coal fire. We're actually moving in Idaho or at least Idaho Power is moving away from coal and much more towards gas, which people are happy about, fine. But it also creates additional problems in that our reliance on the gas supply chain is really substantial.
Right.
You also have people that aren't happy about, moving more towards gas because of the carbon aspect of it. And it's like, okay, but, and nuclear is absolutely promising, but we certainly cannot be the first utility to go nuclear because essentially we don't know how much microreactors are going to cost, right? So being that we're a regulated monopoly and, let's say Idaho Power is like, all right, great. Let's build this nuclear plant. That's all well and fine until you realize that if it blows past the budget, because we're a regulated monopoly, the Public Utility Commission would say hey guys, you can't pass on all this exponential cost that you didn't anticipate onto the customer.
Exactly.
That's not fair. So we'll give you $100 per kilowatt or something, but we're not giving you the $500 it cost you, which would obviously bankrupt Idaho Power. And because of that, they can't be the first one to go after this. So they have to wait for a few people to do it, have the cost structure ironed out, and then they can take a hard look and say, okay, is this something we could invest in? Or we need governmental backstops, either through the state or the federal government saying, look, man, you guys absorb your general cost is about $70 per kilowatt or megawatt. Mm-hmm. Absorb 120, you take a little bit of the hit, a little bit of the risk, but if it goes over 120, we'll pay for that delta, right? So there are all of these problems with, we're using more gas, which makes us more reliant on the gas supply chain. People don't love the carbon. Nuclear is an option, but we can't be the first one with nuclear. And you don't have any other base load options.
Right. And this is a base load option.
Right. New base load option. You have hydro, you have all these other things, but
this is a base
we're
load.
Not coming up with any other new stuff, right?
Right. No, it's going to take a team or a toolbox to solve these problems. And they're not going to get easier, right? So that's why we're starting now. And look, we've come a long way in a few years, but just so you understand, in the exploration process, we're going to, do all the studies on it. That can take, a few months, and then we come back, and it's a long process to get to the answers, but we're getting closer and closer. And Idaho's fun to work in because you guys have such a pioneering spirit, right?
Wow.
It feels like a lot of people here are just excited about new things, which has been kind of cool to be on the ground.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, listen, thank you for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, let's keep the party going.
Please. Love it.
Sounds good.
All right.
Talk to you again.
Thanks.